Greetings, listeners, throughout all of Italy. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Stefano. He's a member of Fascist Italy and is here to tell you, the Italian people, about fascism.
Thanks, Mr. Alfonsi. Before we talk about fascism, we have to talk about Mussolini, our leader of the Fascist Party. Mussolini went from a supporter of socialism to the leader of our beautiful political movement called fascism. Mussolini came to power after the March on Rome in 1922 and was appointed prime minister by King Victor Emmanuel. Fascism is the complete opposite of Marxian socialism and, now and always, will believe in the holiness and heroism. That is to say, in actions influenced by no economic motive, whether that be direct or indirect. All other social parties are flawed in comparison to the Fascist Party.
And what are your thoughts on the class war, and how is it a possible force on the transformation of our society?
Well, above all things I just said, I cannot emphasize how us fascists believe the denial of the class war and how its force doesn't transform our society.
Where do you, along with the Fascist Party, stand on the topic of democracy?
Good question. Fascism denies in democracy, to say the least. The 19th century was a century of socialism, libertarianism, and of democracy. This doesn't mean that the following century, the 20th century, must also be the century of socialism, libertarianism, and democracy.
Good points. What about the socialists? How do you, along with all the fascists, think of them?
The socialists were silly in the fact of thinking that they could shout in the center of a football stadium in Milan. They were singing and embracing the communist leader Lenin. So they did not stop, and we had to silence them. And that's exactly what we did.
Wow, that's amazing. But how did your group know that communism was so bad?
Communism is and forever will be a horrible thing for Italy because it corrupts countries and its people. We cannot rebuild our country if it exists. There cannot be any coexistence with it. It's disgusting and it needs to get out of Italy.
Oh, what are the goals that fascism had in the March on Rome, and how did it achieve those goals?
The goals on the March on Rome. Well, that should be obvious. The main goal was to mark the beginning of fascist rule and ensure the doom of the preceding parliamentary regimes of socialists and liberals. Our leader, again, Mussolini, was determined to accept nothing less than the control of the government. And so that's what we fought for. In general, though, the March on Rome was not really a conquest of power, but rather a transfer of power within the Constitution. A transfer made, possibly, by the surrender of authorities in the face of fascist intimidation.
Very interesting and appealing information. Thank you for coming in and informing on the Fascist Party, Mr. Stefano.
Thank you, Mr. Alfonsi. I'm glad I was able to come out here and speak on behalf of the Fascist Party. No matter the outcome of the future, I hope for a stronger, more stable Italy.